just been watching some birds in my yard. I hope you've had a chance to learn some things and see some birds this week. It's been a really fun week for us.
What a great way to wrap up Ornithology Week. If you love birds, this could be just the beginning for you. You could have a career in ornithology. Listen to Brian, who is working as an ornithologist right now. He'll tell you a little bit about what he does.
Hi, my name is Brian, and I'm a professional ornithologist. I live in California, and I work for an environmental consulting firm. What a consulting firm does is basically to try to work with builders or cities, the state, any other organizations that want to do anything that might impact wildlife, plants, or wetlands in any negative way, and try to help make sure that those impacts are the least they could possibly be. In my case as an ornithologist, I do a lot of nesting bird surveys in the spring and summer. So basically I come to sites where there might be an impact to bird habitat, and I look around to make sure there are no birds actively nesting on the site, meaning they don't have eggs, they aren't raising young, anything like that. The San Francisco Bay Area where I live has one of the highest concentrations of threatened and endangered species in the entire country, just because there's so much variation in habitat and the types of organisms that can live in those habitats. So that means that a lot of these projects need to consider a lot of factors. So that's what we help with. We help companies and governments figure out exactly what it is they're dealing with on a project site and what sorts of surveys they need to do to make sure that those impacts that they're going to have during construction don't negatively impact any wildlife that may be present. Being an ornithologist can mean a lot of things. I actually started off doing research in the field in support of academic efforts, trying to do research and learn things about birds just for the sake of knowledge. And while this is really important so we can understand what the behaviors of animals are like and why they do the things they do, I personally felt like I wanted to have a more day-to-day impact on protecting wildlife and making sure that what we do as humans is something that wildlife can tolerate and that the impacts aren't too much. I think being an ornithologist is a really fun job because I basically get to come out and just go birding for work on most of the days of my week during the spring and summer, which is pretty amazing. So personally, I find it really rewarding and important, just got buzzed by a hummingbird there, to do something that's actually meaningful on a day-to-day basis where I can really see the impacts of my work. And in cases like this where I do these nesting bird surveys, I really find that to be the case because I'm coming out to this site, I'm trying to find a nest. If I find a nest, I'm making sure that nothing bad happens to it in the course of construction. That we obviously need a lot of that to happen for us to live our lives in the way we're used to living them. So thanks for listening, and I hope you have a great spring.
Thanks, Brian. Now let's talk about plants. This coming week we're going to be focusing on botany. That's the science of plants. I bet you'll be able to find lots of plants around where you are, and we'll be able to see some of the interesting things about plants that go unnoticed. One of the things I like best about plants is even if you sneak up on them, they can't fly away.
I'm back in my park today. You can hear behind me that I'm close to the main road that leads in here. I wanted to do a botany mystery for this time around, and I can find it really close to the entrance to my park. So lots of times when you're out walking, you can see a plant that looks something like this. It is the subject for this week's mystery. This plant won't bother you at all if you're a slug, as you can see, because this guy's enjoying his lunch. But if you're a human and you touch the little hairs on the stems of this plant, you're going to get a feeling that's kind of uncomfortable, like pins and needles when you stand up after sitting for too long. And it doesn't last for very long, but it's pretty unpleasant. So it's important to know how to recognize this plant.
When I'm out on the trail, I look for all the clues I can to help me identify the plants that I see around me. When I see these two plants, at first they look pretty similar. But when I look a little more closely, I notice that the one on the left has kind of a scalloped edge, whereas the one on the right has a more zigzaggy or a sharper edge to it. It reminds me of a saw blade, and you know that if you touched a saw blade, it would definitely hurt. So that's how I remember that the one on the right is Stinging Nettle.
All right, here's your challenge. Which of these two plants is the one that you would not want to touch? Is it this guy up here? Or his neighbor that's just not quite as tall yet? You decide.